Good evening and welcome to the Lightworker Within. I'm your host, Tawny Lightworker, and today's show is called The Awakening, where we are going to discuss the visual aspects of what you might be seeing as you're coming through your awakening. Keep in mind, we'll join us Friday, August 29th for upcoming show on Pleiadian and crystal knowledge. We'll be talking a little bit about crystal skulls and Lemurian crystals, along with the constellations and planetary origin of Pleiades. And join us Friday, September 12th for Temple Talk and Egypt Prep. We'll be reviewing, getting ready and talking about the temples and sites that Michelle and I will be visiting, and get you all set up. We'll be broadcasting after that live from the Giza Plateau. Okay, so that said, so tonight what I want to focus on is when I first started going through my awakening, I had many visual, probably because of all the clairaudient, I'm probably the closest to clairvoyant, so I see. And the imagery that I was experiencing, I didn't really have a place. There wasn't like a place or a person to go to analyze and figure out exactly what I was seeing and how it was relevant and what was hallucination versus a reality, which, by the way, it did turn out to be reality versus hallucinations, but how to be able to determine the difference. I'm going to talk a little bit about seeing energy and what it looks like. There are different types of energies. And also teach you how to observe how the energy is moving, if it's circular or vertical or diagonal, and recognizing those patterns and what those meanings are. And also how to focus and defocus your eyes so that you are better able to see auras and energy. And then how to do a little second look or a second check. Which if you're seeing something, how to sort of pull back and take a second look to make sure that you are seeing whatever images that are coming through, and a little bit about how to block. If you're out in regular public and you don't want to be seeing everything, there are some simple techniques you can use for that. And then also observing the color of the energy or aura that you're seeing and being able to relate that back to chakras, energy work, healing, and all that other good stuff. So let's cut to the first slide. Sorry, which slide are we in? Okay. All right, so just the list of things that I had briefly brought up is where we're going to start off. I want to pull up the first slide, which is Earth energy. Okay. All right, so when I first began to see energy, this is what it looked like. And obviously what you're seeing here is pictures of steam coming off of water. So it's not the type of energy that I was actually seeing, but this is visually what it actually looked like. So if you can see how the smoke, it looks like smoke or mist rising, I would visually get that image when I would be looking at somebody and just like above their head. A little bit of this sort of steam would be rising from the crown chakra from above. And at first, I didn't really believe that I was seeing this. And it was very hard to articulate. So when I was searching the internet, trying to research and study what I was seeing, I was able to find images that sort of replicate that. Because when you tell somebody that you see smoke coming out of their head, they usually get a little freaked out. Or maybe they're not quite sure what you're seeing, and I knew I didn't know for sure. So if you by any chance happen to be in doing any energy work, or you are talking to somebody and you do see some type of smoke or a clear energy, usually I see this when somebody is thinking about something really intensely or talking a lot about something they're very passionate about. And then you'll just start to see just a little bit of what I call the smoke white energy coming from the top of the head. And then as they start talking more, you'll see that the smoke increases. Now, the interesting part for me is when I did start recognizing that I was seeing this, I did some experimentation. So when the energy was coming from and the person would be talking, I tried to run my fingers or my hands through it to see if, like, when you run your hand through smoke, the energy moves, obviously, because it's physical, whereas this isn't so much physical, I guess. And so no matter how many times you put your hands through it, it doesn't disturb it, but it still just has that smoky imagery. So I have learned that is basically energy, and I see it both from humans, and also I can see it coming from the ground. For example, we will be going to Sedona in the future, and in some of the parts of the energy vortexes, I actually was able to view this type of energy surging from the earth, and occasionally it will have a pattern to it. This is what you're looking at right now is a little bit more misty, but so recognizing those patterns and then associating them back to how you can work with them. Second slide. This is also a further illustration of what I'm seeing or do see. Sometimes it will look like the smoke from boiling water or steam coming out of a pot of boiling water. And that too sometimes can show up in colors where you might get a little bit of a rainbow. And again, this is not something where you can put your hand through it to move the energy, but just to observe it. So I find that when I start to see this, if you can just slow your vision back just a little bit so that you are able to determine exactly where you're seeing that energy coming from, and then able to observe it, because it will change and grow as the person is talking. And then the next thing I want to talk about, crystal beings. So the other type of energy that I have been seeing is what I call crystalline or crystal beings. And it generally shows itself in somewhat of a rainbow format, very prismatic, like you're looking maybe through a crystal. And I see this energy sometimes by itself, like if you enter a room and you might, there might be some type of interdimensional beings or a crystal something there. You can, you'll see something that usually is very tall, like a crystal being, but they're very see-through and translucent. But the main thing you'll see are the multiple rainbow colors. And I see this happens outside quite a bit. It has the quality of looking at a rainbow. And I also will see this radiating from certain people's heads. So when you do start to see those colors, you want to try to tune in, because usually there'll be one or two colors that are more prevalent than the others, or they just might be straight crystal energy. A lot of children have these particular colors, and in many cases they might be like spiked or crystals coming from the child's crown chakra, and also usually around their head in the form of a halo. And the most important thing I think about when you're starting to see these colors or these shapes is how to tune in and focus your eye so that you can really observe it. So I have this thing where I do where it's usually easiest when you start to observe energy if you work with a person who you can have where they can be both against a black ground and a white background, so you'd be able to interchange. And you'll want to be about 6 feet, 4 to 5 feet, maybe 6 feet apart. And I find that if you look above their head, so if you're looking somebody in the eye, like I am this camera, and I sort of, it's really hard to, I guess, articulate, but kind of unfocus the eye so it's not staring directly, and just look slightly above the person's head. And it takes a little bit of time, and sometimes it's easier to see against a white ground or against a black ground. Usually for me, the white ground is easier. The black ground, though, for viewing the white cloudy energy of smoke, or the smoky energy. So once you've unfocused your eye and you are looking above this person, and again, this is my personal technique. It may not work for everyone, but just what I would suggest. And once you see, you will start to feel both and see a color. Some people who are more sensitive to energy and less visual about it will feel the color, whereas some people might actually see the color. So it's been my experience working with different healers that they have different perceptions, and how we all work is slightly different. So I'm pretty much just expressing from the visual aspect in my experience. But one of the most beautiful things that you can see is to see another human's aura or their energy, and then to be able to identify it and then let them know, share the information with them. A particular interesting energy sighting that I experienced, and we'll do the next slide. These first two, or this next two slides I'm going to show are just for perspective. This is me setting up to do a little, make an offering to the goddess Sekhmet up at Indian Springs. Actually, just sidestep here. The statue, this beautiful statue, has been there since the 70s. Was stolen recently, but they've now replaced it with a new, much heavier statue of Mother Sekhmet. And I'm so excited to be going to Egypt to see actual real ones. Anyway, so just in the temple for a day, doing a little offering, beautiful sunny day, and I was with a friend of mine, and this particular person has very strong energy. And if you want to bring up, go ahead to the next slide. Sorry, I'm looking. Is it still me? Yeah. Okay. So perfectly clear day. You can see what it looks like. Then if we'll cut to the next slide. This is my friend, Steve. And hopefully you can see this in the picture, but you'll see some smoky energy around. He's sitting Indian style, but you can see around his face and around his hands a little bit of white foggy smoke. So we happened to be using his camera that day, and because he's a professional photographer, he had a very sensitive lens. So while we were taking these pictures, I wasn't actually seeing the energy. We didn't see this until after we completed the photo set, and I was absolutely shocked to see that I could actually visually show somebody else on camera what it is that I was seeing. So if we'll cut to the next slide. Okay. And now you can see him a little more into meditation, and you see how the energy now is sort of surrounding the upper part of his head. And we'll go to the next slide. And this is interesting. It's a side-by-side of energy movement. So you'll see on the picture on the left, you can see the energy around here in this area as he's, saying making his offering and giving a prayer to Mother Sekhmet. And then he pushes the energy up, and you can visually see how the energy actually moved. And what I find so cool about this is that it was actually able to show on camera, because I can show all the visuals of, steaming pots and, the fog on water, but there's nothing like actually being able to see this, on camera. So I think it's pretty exciting. So this would be the type of work that you could do with somebody else, and where you can take turns observing. And so one of the interesting ways that you can do this is by rubbing your hands together. Like when you first want to start seeing the white smoky energy, if you rub your hands together repeatedly, so that you can feel, obviously you'll feel the heat. It's a source of energy. And then once you do it enough, let's see if I don't know if I can get it on camera here. You should be able to then separate your hands, and you should be able to see a white light or slight aura around them. So, and again, some people's energy are stronger than others, but I would suggest that you try this exercise. But give it a good I don't want to do this on camera for 5 straight minutes, but if you do this for about 5 straight minutes, and you can either take your hands apart, or you can watch how the energy will just come off the top of them. So that was when I started practicing that on my own, I was able to start to see the energy in my own hands. So, that's another, I think, a really important visual tool that you can use, especially when you can see it and move the energy. And then the next shot is the orbs shot. Okay, this particular, this was really fascinating. The sun was coming in through the top of the temple, and I happened to take this shot, so you can still see the energy around it, but I thought it was, I'm not quite sure what that is in the upper right-hand corner, but it sure is interesting. And notice how it's pointing towards his head. So I've been doing a lot of research on orbs, and they seem to be obviously energy balls, or and I'm always kind of wondered, like that one in the background, though, if that has a slight ET quality to it. It's the blue and the orange together. But in any event, nothing would surprise me in Sekhmet Temple about the energies in there. So that was just a few quick shots so that you could see, get a visual on it. And then the other type of aura and energy that I would like to talk about is when you can observe it on plants and also on your animals. So if I suggest starting out, if you're looking at a tree with a blue, like if you can get like a nice blue sky background, and you stare, again, stare directly at the tree, then move your eyes, or the plant, and move your eyes slightly above it, and just sort of relax, you will probably be able to see usually a red energy field. Do you want to, I'm sorry, pull another slide up. There should be a green plant on it. One more. There we go. Okay, so this is usually what I'm seeing when you are looking to see energy coming off of a plant. I also notice when I'm working with my pets, the energy tends to be a little on the reddish side like this as well. But try it, practice it. I think it could be very interesting to see how long it takes you to start developing your eye. And then the other exercise, again, is rubbing the hands together. And you'll find that after you've rubbed them and you pull this way, you'll be able to see energy connecting. And you should be able to pull it and play with it. Pull it apart and push it back together. Apart and back together, and really observe. And this you can try in different types of lighting until you can actually you'll see the actual energy between the fingers. So this is what I believe when I've observed a lot of my friends who do energy work, and I see them some people do hands-on, and I have seen this type of energy also for the people when they work maybe just barely above the body as well. And you can see how they're working with, forming, transmuting, and moving the energy through. So I suggest you observe that also in the different healers that you might be working with, and just to kind of see and watch them work with energy. It's also a good way for you to practice with yourself in order to test your energy fields. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about is watching the energy and which way it moves. I'm going to have you go to next slide. Oh, this came up a little bit sooner. When I'm seeing color, I always try to associate it back. I'm going to put this slideshow actually up on my website, the Lightworker Within, so that you can go back and view it in depth if you would like. This is a quick reference chart talking about the different chakras and the colors, so that you can start practicing and know the colors that you're seeing. Now, what I thought when I first started, when I close my eyes and see the colors, I'll get a different color every time. So I'm associating that with a particular chakra that might need some work for you to work on it yourself, or that should be noted. So a lot of times I might see red, which obviously would be the root chakra, and also see purple, which would be, of course, the crown, third eye. So that's a nice little reference chart that you can use to take a look at your colors. And then I was just reading that I started also seeing with my eyes closed. And at first I thought I didn't know, some people can do this and others don't. So it took me a while to kind of figure out the different patterns that I was seeing. So and I was just reading about this too. When you have your eyes closed and you're meditating, and depending on how long you keep your eyes closed, you will see different shapes. And for example, sometimes I will see a sacred geometry form in this slide. Let's see which, with seen with your eyes closed. If you want to pull up that slide, it's got pretty things on it. That one. Okay, so sometimes in the if you see in the upper right hand side where you see the purple formation, I will see very distinct geometric symbols, and they kind of seem like they're lit up or have sort of like an X-ray quality to them. Now, I've been speaking to others, and others are also getting these types of images when they're meditating or closing their eyes. So I thought that was interesting. The one I see the most often is like the lower right hand side. It's pink. It looks sort of like an eyeball, and you can see the white, and then emanating from it would be the shape of an eye. So another time when you're meditating, your eyes are closed and you keep them closed long enough, you may see the shape or a small pinpoint of an eye, and then usually it will start to enlarge and open. And usually it'll pulse a little bit as well, and it can be different colors, but to me that's a really good indicator that your third eye is in fact open or opening while you're doing your meditation. Another way that you can get focused is to, when you close your eyes, kind of in a way cross your eyes behind your eyelids and focus on the point between the center of your forehead. So when you do that, and I tap it, I'll usually close my eyes and tap it a little bit. That helps to activate it or wake it up, and to let your third eye know that you're about ready to start working with it, and you want to feel it. It might be a little bit of pressure. It might feel a little like, especially when it first starts to open, I usually kind of feel a little, like just a little switch. And then you just have to wait. That's the other thing, because you're working with your eyes closed again. You might have to wait for a few minutes or several minutes, depending on where you're at, before you'll start to see the eye, the pinpoint, and then it open and start to throb or pulsate a color. Other types of images, like the one in the upper right, I'll get like flashing reds that might be swirling and swirling. It feels almost sort of electric, only it's red. So that is another type of energy. And so I'd be really curious to see what other people are seeing. If you want to shoot me an email, or I'm Tawny Lightworker on Facebook, but I'd be curious to see what other types of images people are seeing. And if you have seen these, do know that you are actually seeing them and you're not crazy or hallucinating. Okay. And then the last slide I want to go over is what I call galaxy eye. And galaxy eye is when you have your eyes closed and it looks like a galaxy or like stars. So usually I'll see the pattern of the energy might be going counterclockwise or clockwise, depending. And sometimes there's also movement within the galaxy. So now in my reading, excuse me, I found an interesting information that when you're seeing the galaxy eye, or when you have your eyes closed and you're experiencing this is the channel that you'll be working with in order to go into the next dimension. So you can use this as, I know, and that when I first read that, I was kind of surprised, because I knew there was something really special about what I was seeing, but I didn't actually realize it is a gateway or a window that you can move through to go in or see the next dimension. So I haven't been able to yet penetrate and go into that next dimension, but now that I guess I've read it and heard it and know that it's possible, that will be my next thing. I often will see when I'm going to a doorway, sometimes a doorway or a window, but I'll see a part of it vibrating, and to me that's been indicating that that is either another dimension, or that the veil between the dimensions is getting smaller, and that like we'll be able to actually, like, I keep thinking I'll look at it and I want to put my hand right through the door. but it hasn't happened yet, but someday it will. So using that as a starting point, and now that I know I can go into another dimension, I'm going to totally be meditating and focusing to see where I can take that. But again, I'd be curious to see how many people are also seeing what I call galaxy eye. And the swirling of the energy too, I would really like to learn how to even better direct it. So I'm starting now to envision being able, once you see the galaxy and the way it's moving, to be able to then take that out and spin it, sending out love, light, and energy into the universe. And I want to really use that as a gateway. Be really interested to hear from other people about their experiences on that as well. And then also on that same slide, in the lower left, you will see a pinpoint. And that is usually prior to seeing a galaxy eye. When I close my eyes, I'll get that just sort of a circle, and it's kind of starts out like a pinpoint, but then it opens up much larger to when you see the full galaxy. So I feel like that's part of where the dimension is opening up. And then once you're actually there observing it, so the next part is, you know, being able to leap through it. And that will be my next goal in relationship to that. Also, I want to make sure that when you are practicing these techniques, that you do stop, and if you need to take a second, it can be kind of intense. It was very, I was getting headaches at first when I first started doing it, and because it's a lot, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's a lot of something, and it will definitely, it can suck into your energy as well. So what I try to do is, if I accidentally see these things happening, I will stop myself and cleanse, and then reopen my eyes to take a second look to make sure, should I be seeing this or exactly what I am seeing. And then if I'm just out in public, or and I don't usually have to think about this too much, but setting up a shield so that you're just taking in the energy as you want to be seeing it, and not necessarily just everywhere. Except for children, I'm going to say that it's really, really difficult to not see this happening on children. So, but just don't be surprised. So now, if you are at all afraid of it, you can always stop these visions and stop this by consciously making the decision, like, this is too much information for me to see, and you can set that in your mind, and your mind will know not to absorb or go further with that. So you want to make sure and take it at your own pace, and make sure that you're comfortable, and that you also feel that you are shielded as well. And all you have to do by that is, again, close your eyes, set your boundary, whatever you want your human energy bubble to be. And I just envision white light or golden light encompassing, going all around. But I do find there are times when you have to, or you may want to turn it off. I will be really curious to see in Egypt how my perceptions are either heightened, which I'm guessing they will be, but the type of energy I'll be able to see there, whether it's coming off the sand or in part of the temples, and really curious to see that. Another thing you can do, seeing with your eyes closed, is to touch something, usually the palm of your hand. For me, it's my left hand, and you can either, if you have the permission of somebody, to either, you know, touch their arm, or to be able to touch a wall or an inanimate object, and then see what visions you get that come into your mind when you close your eyes and you're touching something. I sometimes will get, sometimes it'll be nothing for a minute, and then it'll be like maybe like a cloudiness to it, and then it might get a little more clear. So I've always been curious to see, like, if I'll be able to, this is like a goal, if I can put my hand on a wall or a hieroglyph in Egypt and visually see what that image is. But for right now, for colors, when you are with a friend that you're practicing with, try just placing your palm of your hand on them wherever you are most comfortable for both of you, and just to see what colors you see. So it may be, if you're seeing a particular color a lot, it may indicate they might need some work with that particular chakra. That you can help them with, and that is speaking to you to inform them, like, oh, I'm really seeing your heart chakra right now. Maybe you should do, some energy healing work and along those lines. And a lot of professional healers that I do know and speak to quite often see colors, either touching or just laying hands above somebody. So you'll see them working with somebody maybe on a massage table, and you'll see their hands above. A lot of them have told me that they can in fact see the color and the movement of the chakra and the energy that they are working with. So definitely something to work towards. And of course, then what is the color you are seeing, and what does that associate? What does that meaning, what does it mean to you? So I think colors have different meanings to everyone. I don't think there's any one right or wrong answer. So what I try to do is when I'm seeing blue, what am I noticing about the person or myself, and analyzing that a little bit. So I've been able to see a pattern when I see green, which is the heart chakra. In my definition, it means healing. And when I see red, passion or the root chakra. So I'll have different associations. But those, now that I've been able to see it enough, as you will be or are already doing, making notes about that so you'll know to recognize when certain things are being indicated to you, or just to instinctually let yourself experience and help the person you're with, depending on if you're working. I believe a lot in self-healing. So doing this on yourself is also perfectly normal. Well, I guess maybe not normal, but anyway, can be very healing. But also really cool if you can have some of this knowledge when you're working with a healer. Many of wonderful professional healers out there. And I think it's a really beautiful thing to be able to talk to the healer yourself, because if you can see if they're working hands-on or working with you, to express to them what you are seeing as well. I find that it's really good, gives a nice validation to the healer, explaining what you're seeing and knowing what they're doing also, and having a nice little discussion afterwards. So also very interesting. If you have any questions or would like to discuss these topics, please, by all means, send me an email. That would be TawnyX, TAWNIX @gmail. You can locate me on Facebook, probably the easiest, Tawny Lightworker. But I'd love to get some discussions and threads going about the different images that you're seeing, and hopefully some of these images that I've put together in the slideshow will trigger some, like, oh, I saw that, or gee, that's kind of what I see, or I'd like to just get some discussion, dialogue going about that. Anyway, so that about wraps up this evening. So when you think you are seeing something and you see energies or otherwise, you probably are seeing them. If you have to ask if you're awake, you probably are awake. So don't be afraid to research, reach out, talk to other light workers, talk to people, and really get the awareness up there so we can all help each other remember who we are. And that's about it. Thank you for joining me tonight. The awakening, and we will have further discussions once I return from Egypt about what we're seeing in visual discussion. Thank you so much. Namaste.